Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm watching Grandmaster Robert Hungaski play a game against Kibitzing. Okay, let's see how this one plays out. So we have a Benkö that has clearly been declined. Knight to d2. Okay. So what now? We could take, but we're inviting a nice knight on the c4 square. I don't know if you really want to do that. So instead, looking to chip away at the d5 point immediately. What a wild game this can already turn out to be. There is an idea of e5 and d6. Okay, we're not having that though. And which way to recapture, if at all? There's also this capture. Okay, so now the d file is completely open, an e5 push. And now you can anticipate a lot of pressure here. Knight c6, well, maybe you want to do something about this pawn first. Okay, b5 it is, not wanting to give up this c4 square. Fairly automatic move, I would imagine, is bishop to e7. Bishop e6, can you play that? Bishop e6, queen e2 as white. I think that would be an optimal setup. Well, this diagonal at least for the light square bishop. Bishop d6, knight takes, there's knight takes, and that would be defending the bishop on d3. So, okay, going instead with the queenside fianchetto. Pawn break-wise, we're going to have a4 eventually, so this is being prepped. Bishop e7. Okay, no, the immediate pressure against this square here, and now this is quite uncomfortable, so maybe this was premature playing a3. Maybe best to have first played bishop d3 and then queen to e2. So now having to invest in additional tempo. Can you not take on this square right now, exploiting this pin? Okay, this is another direction to go. So now we have, with that exchange, a structural defect, black having the bishop pair, and a wonderful square on c5. And this is, I think this is already going to be very, very difficult for Team White. We could have a quick result here. This is a passed pawn, a super knight, and the bishop pair on the black side. This bishop is enormous. Bishop c3 could be very inconvenient to the black side. This queen can't even go too many places, can she? The knight, watching over the light squares. This pawn has the dark square. Not very many options here. There's castle, push. There's an idea of maybe even taking on this square, and then taking here, and then following up with some fork on b3 if you want to go a materialistic way, but there's certainly not anything wrong with keeping the position as is, simply improving, making improving moves. There are ways to still get your pieces in better positions. h6, just getting a flight square, but I think you could have actually gone... No, actually, bishop takes, there would be queen takes, and the queen would be there to defend b3. So maybe sensing some pressure against b3, white's there to defend. This is now a new possibility. Some pawn break to maybe undermine c4, but not so sure about that. How else to improve? h6 is one thing that comes to mind. Pawn push, you always have to consider, okay, going with the straightforward doubling. But how do you get past the knight on d2? You know, if there's a better spot for the knight, it would be c3. So maybe there's an idea with a4, and if takes, knight getting into here, but the bishop is unprotected. So maybe, is there a way to somehow get the knight to c3? In the meantime, it's actually quite difficult to even suggest anything for Team White. I believe this is already a busted position. Just even are going a few moves back. We're at move 19. White is clearly struggling to find something constructive. I just don't see a way to improve the position. If the knight moves, you're going to eliminate a number one defender of the king side. The black queen will quickly get on this light diagonal. So, okay, h4, h5, grabbing some space. This is maybe a different story, this clamping down type of move on the white side if the position is completely closed on the queen side, but there's certainly going to be some action, and with rook to b8, maybe that was a mouse slip, or maybe there is this idea of bishop back and then a4 pawn push. Still trying to get in knight a4 to c3. The only thing holding back this move is the bishop being unprotected on this square. However, maybe there is the idea of push, takes, bishop takes, knight, knight takes, and then knight a4 to c3. I'm not so sure. Or even push, pawn takes, bishop takes, knight, and then the knight taking on this square and jumping into c3. Maybe these are some of the thoughts running through Black's mind. Additionally, even g5. This can open up the position against the black king. But there aren't so many attacking pieces for white. I mean, this knight e4 move, can't do it. These two minor pieces are watching over it. So, okay, bishop c6. I believe the lines are drawn here. We're going to have a4. How to meet this threat? Do you want to invite the knight into the position? Okay, well, he's immediately trying to be kicked away, but he's not going away so fast. Actually, wasn't there bishop takes bishop? Oh, there was, but queen takes knight with check. Okay. There's got to be something good here soon. For black, I'm still thinking. Rook here. Well, actually have to be careful of h6. Pawn takes, then there's some discoveries. This is a bit uncomfortable. Oh, okay, you're smashing through at this point. This should be good enough, I would imagine. Is this going to be enough after h6? h6 isn't going to be fast enough, is it? h6 with an idea of knight move somewhere. I was going to say e6, but there's knight takes, and that would defend g7. Rook is hit. A minute 22. This game has been going by very fast. Bullet mode, basically, for both sides. Let's see how it finishes up. Candidate moves. I imagine rook takes, knight takes is not so helpful to white. You try to come over here. Maybe. Keep some material on the board. Okay, rook to g1, lining something up. This must be too slow. How can black punish this? The queen can maybe get to a8, but maybe you're kicking the king to a square it wants to go to. It wants to get off of this g file so that there is this threat against g7. Sneaky. 145 for black to figure something out. How do you defend against this pawn? Imagine that. Just that one little pawn break. Takes, knight here, and things become very uncomfortable. Wow. Drastic measure there with f5. Pawn takes, queen takes. The queen is at least there to defend g7, but actually more directly, immediately right now, the rook is defending g7. Why didn't I consider that? It seems actually, as soon as it's played, it's like, oh, sure, now I understand why. But, okay, lateral defense. Just clearing the way for the rook to defend. And now this queen is very active. You could have this push. Black should certainly be looking for trades. Up a pawn, but even if he's not up a pawn, just having this outside pass pawn, it's just it's a good strategy. Trade a little bit. And if there's no attack against the black king, then this is going to be toast. It's just too much to deal with. He's strictly defensive. He's still not doing anything for as long as the king is here. Black is simply ignoring this, throw the king in the corner. You just have to watch out for knight f7 stuff. But yeah, I don't see how to make much progress here. Rook takes, queen takes with check, king h3. You could just bring the queen back, looking for queen f5. Or you could probably even push, but I like just coming back here, guarding everything. Alright, so queen here is a mate threat. You don't want to miss that. You don't want to promote. You definitely don't want to promote here. I know that much. Less than 50, 13 seconds for white. How do you defend your back rank? Rook here, that's mate. Ooh. How do you defend your back rank? Oh my goodness. You're going to have to throw in some sneaky checks. Whoa, is there a way to defend queen to e8? Oh. Okay, that's a check. King here? King here? This is still back on. Mate threat. Oh, promote with check. Oh, I thought there was something weird about king g4. My instinct told me king here, but I overlooked that. Promotion with check. I wonder if there was a win there. We're gonna go back. We'll see this, but okay, still live here. 13 seconds. Rook is hit. Yeah, this shouldn't be anything. Black is completely coordinated. The knight is in a pin. This pawn can continue to march. 1.8 to 6, 1.4 to 5. Oh, just throwing in time burners. Time burner time. Oh, game over. Okay. Let's quickly unfollow and let me go in. Let's see. There had to have been many things missed with this game here. I'm curious to know, looking once again from the Grandmaster's perspective, R. Hungaski won on time, but I believe at the very end it was a positional win, an objective win. Benkö Gambit declined. Anything jumping up here? Apparently there is that e5 move. This was my first instinct. Kick the knight. And I was referencing this. So e5, knight g8. Not a fantastic move to have to go with. Because now what do we have? The position opening up. And who's the side that benefits? Probably white. Space advantage. Really underdeveloped. Up a pawn. Nice square on c4. Alright, we didn't go in that direction. e5 was probably a missed opportunity. Instead takes, and we're bounced. Pressure on e5. Anything jumping out. That's great. Let's see. I'm kind of one eye on the board, one eye on the evaluation here as I'm going through. Here I had thought, instead of a3, I was thinking the bishop d3. Would there have been anything wrong with that? Yes, there would have. This capture. Something I had pointed out earlier, but not when the bishop was on b2. It's a much different, or I'm sorry, not when there was two pieces on this square. At that earlier point, right around here, I was thinking that instead of b3, this would not be a tactical shot because of knight takes defending. But fast forward a little bit, when there's two pieces on it, it's a much different story. Bishop d3, not a great move. So, anything else jumping out? Okay, we actually have an interesting shot here, trying to deflect the bishop away. If bishop takes, this pawn would fall. So rook takes instead, and now the knight jumping in here. Oof. And we have a similar story. This is just, it's really coming down to a superior structure for the black side. This is the structure that we had in the game. A bishop placed in white's territory, locking down the queen side, exerting a ton of pressure on the white position. It's just too good. And a knight on c5 to follow. It's a superior structure. Positional win, really right at this point. Right here, it's quite difficult for white. And I don't think we'll see an evaluation shift. I don't think white ever had any tactical shots for a while yet, until we had this pawn break. Then maybe there's things that are missed, giving it a little bit of time to think here. So it's a typical reaction to try and get a piece right out of your position. You notice how quickly, after takes and the knight is in black's position, notice how quick queen d8 was played. Not that it's best, but just the instinctual idea of, let's get this one piece out of my position. It's usually the most annoying one. Knight g5 in this case. f4. d3. I'm curious, did white have some mate towards the end? What was missed? Black maintains this advantage throughout. f5, was that a top move? Yeah, it seems like it's a top move right there. Providing lateral defense. Quite a bit of time was spent on that one, about, what, 30 seconds. Takes, queen takes, and I think there's just not going to be an attack here. Was there any missed opportunity, however, for white? Was there a better king move as soon as it got to this? Ooh, it is. That's a big shift. We're down to 0 right there. So apparently, when we're in bullet mode here, after king h3, pawn push is not best. Better was queen to f6. That's the move I was thinking of, I think, during the game, just to kind of guard some squares near the king instinctually, instead of pushing this pawn, consolidating. Actually, I don't know if I said it during the video, but what I had in mind was queen f5, looking for that queen trade as usual. But okay, d2 apparently is allowing white to slip away with the draw. Queen h5, and now I guess you have to be super accurate for black, finding rook to e7 to defend this. Apparently black was blind to that, because now, ooh, it's a mate in 7. But not with king to g4, king to h2. I was thinking king h4. Oh, this also wins. Evaluation is going crazy town. So apparently king h4 or king h2 will do the trick. King h2, and what could have been the following mate? Queen to b8, knight f7. Yeah, it's just too much. It's really too much at this point. If you're playing this move right now, well, it's still knight f7. And then this is just too much to deal with. So white had their opportunity, but made a poor move. Well, they had very limited time. After the check, not king to g4, you're running right into that push. And black will be winning. But one accurate king move, in this case king h2, we're looking at a mate in 6, queen b8. Could have followed knight f7. This is all forced. And then, well, how do you defend this? Computer-like moves, right? Push. Oh yeah, just these sacks to delay the inevitable, but we'll have mate on the next move no matter what. Queen e5. Yeah, queen e5, and then queen g7. Probably a few other mate in 2s at that point. But interesting game. It only got to, well, it was a missed opportunity there with king to g4. King to h2 or king to h4 would have been better. This would have been an eventual mate. But as it played out, it was king to g4, and we had a rat race as usual, with black winning on time and, of course, position in this final position. Okay, that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye. Oh, that's interesting. So the bishop is going to back up after knight f4, and if this knight move is there and never taken, then this diagonal is opened up very nicely for the bishop. I don't believe we'll ever see e6.